The Titans spread across creation, taking their places as rulers of the elements and forces that shape existence. Oceanus and Tethys watched their vast domain flow, a network of rivers and currents that wrapped the world in gleaming blue veins. Their offspring, the Oceanids, numbered in the thousands, spirits of every river, lake, and spring. The laughter of their endless children sparkled through the world's waters like living light.
Hyperion, Lord of heavenly illumination, strode across the sky with the confidence of a god born from pure radiance. From his union with Rhea came Helios, whose shining chariot would one day blaze across the heavens. Selene, serene and pale as a dream of night, and Eos, the dawn, who opened each morning with golden fingertips. The cosmos glimmered with life and movement, a dance of titans whose steps shaped the laws of reality. To mortal eyes, this era would seem perfect, unmarred, divine. But the throne of heaven trembled even in the calm, for no ruler escapes the echo of their own crimes, and prophecy, once spoken, clings to destiny like iron. Cronus knew the truth whispered by his wounded father. One of his children would rise against him. One would overthrow him as he had overthrown Cronus. It was a truth that stalked him through every moment of peace. It burned in his thoughts and poisoned his joy. So, when Rhea, his sister and queen, bore their first child, Cronus felt the prophecy coil around him like a serpent. Hestia entered the world with a radiant warmth, destined to become goddess of the hearth. But Cronus did not see her brilliance. He saw a threat. He acted without hesitation. He consumed her before her first cry faded. Rhea's scream shattered the stillness of the Golden Age. No mother had ever known such horror. But Cronus silenced her with the cold certainty of fear. Prophecy left no room for mercy. Demeter came next, then Hera, then Hades, then Poseidon. Child after child swallowed. Destiny devoured in the name of preventing destiny. Rhea's grief hollowed her voice until it cracked like old stone. The world she once loved grew suffocating under the weight of her loss. Cronus walked the halls of their palace with the calm of a god who believed he had outwitted fate. But every footstep echoed with the cries of his unborn rebellion. Rhea's anguish finally drove her to seek counsel from the one being who knew more than any other about the cruelty of a tyrant, her mother, Gaia. Deep within the earth's cradle, she poured out her sorrow before the ancient earth goddess. And Gaia, who had once watched her own children suffer, listened with a stillness sharper than steel. Beside Gaia stood Uranus, broken and distant but not silent. Together, the primordial parents forged a plan that would echo through all future ages. They sent Rhea across the sea, far from Cronus's gaze, to Crete. There, at the shadowed foot of Mount Lycaeum, she gave birth in secret to a child unlike any the world had known. A child destined to lead gods and mortals alike into a new age. Zeus. The infant's cry split the night like a spark that could ignite the world. Rhea wrapped a stone in swaddling cloth, her hands trembling with both terror and hope. She delivered it to Cronus with a mask of despair, and Cronus, never imagining deception from the wife he had broken with grief, devoured the stone whole. He believed himself safe once more. Meanwhile, Gaia carried Zeus through shifting caverns that breathed with the pulse of the earth. She entrusted him to two nymphs, Adrastea and Io, guardians swift and fierce. With them lived Amalthea, a goat whose milk carried divine strength. Together they raised Zeus in a hidden cave on Mount Dicte, cloaked from Cronus's sight. The infant slept suspended in a cradle hung from a high branch, so he touched neither earth nor sky, remaining unseen by the tyrant who believed he had consumed his final threat. To mask his cries, the curates danced outside the cave in furious rhythm, clashing their shields in thunderous harmony. Their war dance echoed through the valleys, a living wall of sound between the infant god and the ruler who would destroy him.
Zeus grew with unnatural speed. His mind sharpened like obsidian. His strength swelled like a rising storm. His destiny pulsed within him like lightning waiting to strike. And when he reached the fullness of his youth, he understood what must be done. His siblings suffered in darkness. His father ruled in fear. The golden age, serene as it seemed, was built on swallowed futures. Zeus set out to free the world from the shadow of Cronus. But first, he would need wisdom greater than his own. And so he sought Metis, one of the Oceanides, goddess of cunning thought and deep, flowing intellect. Her presence stirred the air like the hush before revelation. Zeus asked her how to overthrow a king who devoured his own children. Metis answered not with a weapon, but with a plan shaped from subtlety. She told Zeus to return to his mother and request entrance to the palace of Cronus as a humble servant, a cupbearer, a role close enough to the king to act, but quiet enough to avoid suspicion. Rhea, long waiting for her moment, guided her son into the heart of the palace. Cronus never paused to wonder why a new youth had entered his court. The prophecy had lulled him into a false belief. He swallowed stones, he swallowed gods. He believed he had swallowed fate itself. This arrogance left him blind. Zeus poured the wine of the gods with a steady hand, silent and obedient, until the night Metis's potion swirled through the cup. A hidden poison of liberation, crafted not to kill, but to force release. Cronus drank, and the world shifted. A groan rumbled from deep within him, older than mountains. His body convulsed, his face twisted with a realization too late to stop. Then, with a heave that shook the palace, he vomited forth the stone he had swallowed. It crashed to the floor with a thunderous crack. One by one, the swallowed gods emerged, fully grown, radiant with fury and divine power. Hestia stepped forth with fire in her eyes, Demeter with the strength of harvests, Hera with the majesty of queens, Hades with the chill of the unseen world, Poseidon with the roar of distant seas. They rose from darkness into the light, and the world trembled in anticipation. Cronus staggered back, face contorted with rage. He understood instantly what had happened. He saw the youth standing tall before him. Zeus, the son he had thought destroyed, now glared at him with the full might of destiny burning behind his gaze. There was no path left but war. The palace of Cronus had never known fear until that moment. Light bent around the reborn Olympians as if the world itself recognized new sovereigns. Zeus stood at their center, lightning flickering along his arms in restless anticipation. The prophecy had arrived in flesh and bone, and Cronus, for all his centuries of dominion, felt the shadow of his father's curse fall fully upon him. But prophecy never unfolds quietly.
Cronus called out across the world, summoning the Titans to his side. His voice, once a symbol of stability, now cracked with desperation. The first to answer was his brother Iapetus, stern and iron-willed, whose sons would one day shape the destinies of mortals. Hyperion arrived next, blazing like a pillar of sunrise. Cronus and Rhea followed, bringing the weight of intellect and constellations to Cronus's cause. Titans loyal to tradition rose from their domains, ready to preserve the old order at any cost. Oceanus alone refused. The ancient river god, calm and unfathomable, chose to remain neutral. His domain encircled the world, and he would not spill its peace into war. For this choice, some hailed him wise, and others called him coward. But Oceanus flowed on, unmoved by either judgment. Meanwhile, the newly freed Olympians fled the palace and vanished into the rugged landscapes of the world, guided by their mother Rhea. They traveled through forests that whispered old secrets and climbed mountains whose peaks pierced the newborn sky. Every step carried the weight of impending conflict. Zeus knew the truth. Their escape was only the beginning. They were divine, yes, but young, untested, and incomplete. Cronus commanded the might of full Titans and the authority of a king. Cronus felt the tremor of change and gathered his forces. The Titans assembled on the plains of the world, their bodies rising like mountains. Hyperion glowed with solar fire. Cronus brought the cold brilliance of thought sharpened into strategy. Cronus commanded the constellations themselves, shaping omens into weapons. Rhea watched the gathering storm from afar, with a heart torn between worlds. She had been queen of the Titans, yet she had birthed the Olympians. Her loyalty had split long ago, the fracture widening with each of Cronus's sins. Even the primordial world began choosing sides. Rivers whispered, winds shifted.
Forests stilled their breath. Fate had taken hold of the universe with relentless force. Zeus gathered his siblings and stood before them, no longer the hidden child in a mountain cave, but a leader forged by prophecy. Hera stood proud beside him, her spirit fierce and unyielding. Demeter rested her hand on the earth, drawing strength from the soil. Hestia's flame burned steady, a calm center in the rising storm. Hades' eyes glinted with unseen depths. Poseidon's presence carried the weight and fury of oceans. They were no longer victims of Cronus. They were gods ready to claim their destiny. Lightning flickered across the darkening sky. The air hummed with the promise of conflict. Every living thing felt the shift, instinctively turning its gaze toward the approaching storm. The first sparks of war ignited when Zeus raised his thunderbolt and hurled it into the horizon. The sky split open. Thunder roared like the voice of creation itself. Titans flinched. The gods stood firm. Cronus answered with a bellow that shattered distant cliffs. He marched forward, Titan-shaped shadows rising behind him, each step leaving imprints the size of valleys. The world stood between two generations of gods, each fighting not only for supremacy, but for the future shape of existence. Allies gathered, armies formed, weapons flashed. The lines of battle stretched across plains, seas, mountains, and the very boundaries of the cosmos. The rebellion was no longer a dream whispered in hidden caves. It had become a living force that could no longer be contained. The first clash had not yet begun, but fate was already spiraling into motion, inevitable as the rising sun. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of the world, forces older than titans and gods stirred awake, sensing that the greatest war in the history of creation was about to begin. As the last echoes of the Titans gathering for war fade into the distance, time seems to hold its breath. The old order stands anchored in fear and pride. The new order rises with purpose and a fire no storm can smother. Across the world, winds shift, seas stir, the mountains listen. Even the deep places of the earth feel the tension building like a bowstring drawn too tight. What began as a family wound has become a fault line stretching through heaven and earth. Every god, every river spirit, every creature that roams beneath the sky will soon feel its tremor. The Titans stand on their ancient thrones, certain that eternity belongs to them. Yet, eternity is a slippery thing. It bends toward change, even when those who rule resist it. Zeus has claimed his destiny. The children of Cronus are free, and the first sparks of rebellion have already taken to the wind. The world will not stay still. It never has. It never will. And when next we return to this story, the sky will roar with the opening thunder of a war that will reshape creation. The Titanomachy draws near, and no power, not even the oldest in the cosmos, can stop what is coming.